So it's important here to note that French fine wine is actually doing really well. It's thriving, and I think that market being so kind of a hobby for a lot of people will always have its place and be doing well. But it's really this kind of ordinary, everyday, table, drinkable wine and those producers in France that are struggling because they want to do different things with the varietals. They want to try new things. They want to kind of be innovative, but they're really heavily restricted by all of these French wine laws. But they don't want to produce the same type of wines that these, fine AOC wines. They're on a different level. So some of these examples we talked about the variety. You're only allowed to produce certain varietals in different areas of France, but then on top of that, pruning practices are regulated, what time of the year you're allowed to prune, and the techniques used to do that. No irrigation, no watering system. The quantity, so the yield that you're allowed to produce from your different vineyards, and then also you have like the space between vines that's down to the centimeter. I mean, everything is regulated. It's very strict. So it really stifles the creativity of these producers who want to be expressive with their wines, more similar to the New World style. They really they can't do it. They're stuck. So at this point in my research, I didn't really understand because to me it was like, okay, France is producing this product that they're trying to sell to these consumers. They know what the consumers want. Why don't they just give it to them? And then I really kind of discovered that wine is linked so historically with France. It's almost synonymous with France. You know, the Eiffel Tower, fine food, good cuisine, and wine. It all kind of just goes together. And the French themselves really identify with wine. In a survey that the French government put on, French, in one of the top 5 things that they identified with was being able to purchase, enjoy, understand the complexities of wine. That's really core to who they are. It's like freedom to Americans. It's something that's so central to who they are. You know, it just is part of it's their identity. Even in World War I, the French government again sent supplies and materials to the front to be made so hot wine could be made for the soldiers in the trenches, so that it could boost morale and give them courage. I mean, it's traditionally just been something that's been with them forever, and the AOC system is really what brought French wine to its kind of respected place in the global wine industry that it has and it has enjoyed for a long time today. So to see that system modified or changed or kind of stripped away just so you can westernize and maybe get a little more market share, French they don't want to do it. You know, there's a big resistance to change. They like the tradition that's embedded in their system. So they don't really want to compromise. So just to kind of overview the problem, the modernist wants to change the current wine laws so that they can allow for these new world marketing techniques and also more expressive and innovative possibilities in the production side itself. And the traditionalist does not want to change the wine laws because they really want to preserve the culture of the system. So going through my research, I really found multiple things that kind of stuck out at me, and I was like, maybe France could do this, maybe they could do this, but it really wasn't until I found this idea of varietals. There's actually only about 30 main varietals that are marketed and sold in the global wine industry today, about 8 big reds, 8 big whites, and then a few others that are pretty popular and common as well. But there are thousands and thousands of varietals that no one uses. There's a lot of this underutilized and unexplored potential in these varietals. So I think that if France kept the AOC system and left it the way it is so that they could still market and have that fine wine and that tradition and that culture, but then went back and kind of found different varietals that were grown traditionally in France that no one grows anymore, they could kind of bring those back, like a rebirth of this ancient varietal, and then make new laws that allow them to market them and produce them in different ways that's totally separate, so that you don't have to lose the culture and the tradition of this AOC system and what it's done for France, but you also get the kind of fun, the movement and kind of the changes that the wine industry is seeing today. So just make the old new again. That's it. So I would like to thank a few people. My French advisor, Professor Jan Purdy. She was great and gave me good reading materials. Definitely very supportive through the writing process, which was very nice as well. And then the French and International Studies departments for all the study abroad help that I had, getting over there and then having that be a good experience. And then also Ava, who's not up here, but she helped me a ton with citing and sources and finding really good numbers and everything for a lot of my market share stuff that I did. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Austin. We have a few minutes for questions, if you'd be willing, or comments,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
dialogue with Austin. Just let her know if you'd like to engage her with a question or comment.
So I know that you're also a business major, and I know that one of your emphases wasn't marketing. But since you have this great marketing idea, I mean, do you know what you can do with it? Are there places where you can?
Yeah, I mean, there are some issues with the marketing idea that I came up with, just because trying to get, a compromise, no one's going to be totally happy with it anyway, but also just the time that it would take to produce a mature varietal from the vine is about 4 years to be able to actually make wine. So by the time you get all the capital startup to do all of that stuff, and this is after you get, all of the political kind of pushing the paperwork and stuff to get all of that made, it would be a long time, and by then, the market could change a lot with consumer demands. So it's a hard thing, but I think the important thing to take out of this is just that there needs to be more of a dialogue between the two sides, because right now there's just some really interesting opinion articles between the two sides about what to do, but I think just trying to find some kind of solution. And one thing that I wasn't able to talk about in here that kind of plays into this is the economics of it, because there's a lot of this kind of middle ground producer wine that they're producing that no one's buying because they're not being able to hit this market, and the French don't want it because it doesn't really follow the AOC system. So the EU is subsidizing all of this wine, and it's just, there's a lot of problems that I think eventually will force them to do something, but I don't know how long it'll take. Stacy?
What was your favorite part of researching wine?
Having an excuse to go wine tasting. Probably. No, I think I was really lucky because I was able to go to Burgundy and talk to some producers. This was actually a lady that we went to her vineyard and talked to her and kind of saw that, they're selling off their wine. This is an AOC high designation wine. And it's really interesting compared, because in the Willamette Valley, what we predominantly grow is Pinot Noir. So I had a really good direct comparison between this old world and new world, and doing a wine tasting there versus doing a wine tasting here, just even kind of the way that is, and the kind of properness that we saw in France that was not absent here, but in certain scenarios it's a much different experience. So I think just kind of seeing how many avenues there are to go.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's a step beyond your thesis, but
Okay.
as a connoisseur, what's your opinion about Oregon wines?
Oh, well, I'm lucky because I really like Pinot Noir, so Oregon wines are great for me. They're way more fruit forward, I would say, than like the Pinots that I had in Burgundy. They were really earthy, kind of mossy. Here it's more acidic, I would say. Yeah, I like them though.
When in the grocery store, whether it's here in the U.S. or like say in Mexico, you're on vacation, you walk up and you see 1,000 wines. Is there a way to tell from like on word stickers and so forth on what might be a starting place to say this is good, this is bad?
Yeah, see, and that's one thing with the AOC system. There's a lot of different designations in France with labeling in terms of biological products as well, that it's a lot of it's like the system. There's a lot of researching that goes into it. I think you could find something. A lot of people have traditionally used the designations, that little pyramid I had, so like this is a Grand Vin de Bourgogne, which is the highest. But there's a lot of discussion that really the AOC just restricts what you can do, and it just tells you everything that went into the wine, but it doesn't really equate to quality. So there's that argument as well, that it really just gives you the restriction and kind of the knowledge of what you're buying, but not so much the quality. Because you can have another person that I spoke with when I was in France was like, oh, the AOC system, you can have a better sparkling wine that's not champagne. It just depends. So there are labeling things you can do, but
One or two more?
Do vendors in France, like this made me think of it, what you just said, when you go into a store, are there similarly restrictions on what merchants can do, like the way that they display their wines? Is there anything stopping the merchants from having a section that says Chardonnay, for example?
In the grocery stores, I'm trying to think back to when I was in Avignon, I didn't notice anything like that. I didn't go into, and I should have, a real like wine shop that was just wine. I only went into big supermarkets that were more, it was just kind of a gradient of color. So I don't know if that is a little outside of the scope of my thing. It might be. I think that you could probably do that and put it on top like a little label. On the actual label itself, you can't. But in the store yourself, I'm sure you could probably organize it the way you want. It's a good question. Should find that out.
Well, Austin, thank you so much for fascinating. This is your certificate, and I also present you with the carnation of victory, and you may choose your carnation for yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we